Hello and welcome into episode 14 of Running for Coverage. I'm Cole Pepper, and I'm excited about this week's edition because I had a chance to talk with one of the most remarkable distance runners in our area. And I'm talking ultra distances. Earlier, we talked to Mark Burgett, who, for my money, is the most impressive local athlete I've ever covered. Well, his opposite number on the women's side is arguably a woman named Regina Sooey, who many of you may know. Regina took up distance running a little later in life, was not running ultras when she was a teenager or anything like that, but she has come into this and has become just remarkable. Her ability to just keep going just staggers me. She recently ran a 50-miler here this past weekend. Before that, one of the races she ran, we talked a little bit about, was the Ball State 500K. And her ability to continue just to move forward is really remarkable. So we get into a little bit of the conversation about what she does to try to fight through when her body says otherwise, and what her preparation is like, and maybe how her outgoing personality belies a little bit of the strategic preparer that she really is. And that's gone a long way to helping her be an outstanding runner. Also, will point out that if you haven't already, please subscribe to our newsletter. Just go to Running for Coverage on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and you can also go to runningforcoverage.com. Please sign up because that's a great way to keep you connected with what we're doing. And in the coming months, we're going to have some exciting things there, including right now, a way for you to save some money on gas just by becoming a member of the Running for Coverage family. So without further ado, let's hear from Regina Sooey, one of the great ultra distance runners in our community. Well, we have some pretty remarkable ultra runners in our running community in Jacksonville. And I am always amazed when I talk to whether it's Mark Burgett or our next guest or others about how they do what they do. Regina Sooey is just the miles that she has run are pretty remarkable. So let's get right into it. Regina, tell me first, how did you decide, or did your body tell you, hey, you know what, you could be an ultra runner? How did that happen?
I was never a runner when I was younger. I started in my 30s. And river run marathons, got faster at marathons, started to realize that I really liked marathons and I really don't like 5Ks. I'm not competitive when I'm running around a track, but I kind of just fell into it really. I was kind of in a down training cycle. I didn't have a big A race I was getting ready for, and I was just chilling. And a bunch of my friends were going to North Carolina to run the Henson Lake 24. And I was like, oh, I don't know, 24 hours. I don't know about that. And they told me just to come on. It'll be it'll be a party. And you can run as much or as little as you want. So I went, and the atmosphere was intoxicating. It was basically the atmosphere you get at a regular run with kind people you don't know cheering for you, volunteers passing out water, everyone attending to your needs, but even more because it's so much of a tighter knit community. And you basically take all the cool people at road racing, you get rid of kind of the few jerks that are there being so serious, and you add in a bunch of like older kind of hippie runners that walk around with their sandals the whole day, and then a bunch of other people sitting around grilling out and camping and cheering and playing their guitars. And that's pretty much the atmosphere.
Interesting. You know what? Having run a lot of 5Ks, and hopefully I'm not one of those jerks. I'm not fast enough to be that competitive. But when I have done team events, the Wilson 55K or things like that, by the time this podcast post, I will have run my first half marathon. A little different situation there. Thank you. But there is, when you stop worrying about what the time looks like, when you stop worrying about how long it's going to take you to run this thing, it changes your mindset, does it? It's more about getting to the finish line than it is getting there at a certain amount of time. Even if you might have, some time goals, that mentality is got to be so much different than a 5K or a 10K.
Very different mindset. The mindset in an ultra is everybody is there helping each other and problem solving. So when I went to this Hinson Lake, which incidentally I ran almost the whole time, I completed 101 miles and I came in third. I wasn't really even trying to do that. I was just running slow and taking walk breaks and high-fiving the volunteers and having a good time. But the mindset at these longer races, most of us are not doing this professionally. Let's face it. Even at a 5K, most of us are not doing this for money. We're doing it to stay in shape, have fun, give back, maybe honor a lost loved one or somebody who's unable to run. We have so many reasons. And my why was just to have fun when I got into ultras. So the mindset, you look at the time, like you have goals. I set a goal. My goal at that first one was I wanted to do over 50 miles. And then once I did that, then my next goal was to get to 100 kilometers. And then I thought, well, I want to make it, I want to stay up and run all night. Because how often do you run all night? It's kind of a,
Never.
right? Do you run all night? It's a different sort of magic in the atmosphere at night. Some of the people go to sleep. Some people nap in the afternoon and then they come out at night and everyone's wearing headlamps and people are carrying glow sticks and some of the people no longer running are in a more festive mood. There's music. A lot of the people have their camps set up. At a timed race, it's usually a shorter loop. So people have campsites set up around, and they're offering everybody everything. So if you have a problem and you didn't bring what you need, they're offering it to you. And I get a blister and they're gonna fix my blister and tape my foot up. It's that atmosphere. And so you don't even think about it. Like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, I wonder if I have what it takes to PR today. Or I wonder if, well, let's see where, like, I'll look and see where I am on the leaderboard. Like, oh, am I in striking distance of a podium? But at an ultra, I mean, you come in third, you get a pat on the back and maybe a plaque. So you're not winning money, you're not winning accolades. It is a completely different mindset.
I do want to get into some of the big races and ultras that you have run, but I also want to talk about the impact that um, this approach about running them, because there's when you start doing these ultras, did you have a sense that, hey, you do that first one, then were you just hooked? Were you like, this is how I want to run, or was there a progression that, okay, well, maybe I can do another one of these? I mean, was it an instant love affair?
It was an instant love affair. I loved I loved everything. I loved the people, I loved the environment. I love the fact that it takes you to so many different places. I mean, I've run ultras all over the world, all over the country. I've met people from tons of different countries. The mindset changes. It becomes less about you and more about like a global feeling and a national feeling. It's hard to put it into words. It was instantly, okay, I want to do more of these. And the thing with ultra is there's so many different formats. There's timed races, so 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, 6 days, 10 days. I've never done 6 days or 10 days, at least that format. There's on a trail, on a road, on a track. Um, there's fixed distance races. There's the backyard race, which is a whole new thing, and that's a format I've done, which I don't love. And then there's causes. So we can talk about philanthropy later, but you get hooked in on the people, and then you get excited by how different every race is. And then you get excited that so many people doing ultras are very much thinking outside of self. So everyone's raising money or everyone's collecting dog food. Like at Hinson Lake, they always collect dog food. There's And then you get outside of yourself, and you wouldn't think it, but when you start putting your goal on helping someone else, you outcreate your own goals without even thinking about it.
So tell me about so many ultra runners that I know are very structured mentally. They're engineers or they're, accountants or something like that. You're a realtor, um, not exactly, uh, you
Not
know,
structured.
structured as a most realtors I know are not a little more creative and affable and outgoing, and so the problem solving could certainly come in there. But how do you when you're out running a long distance, how do you overcome whether there's that voice in your head that says, you know, you could always just take it easy here, or we could always just call it a day. How do you overcome that?
There's so many different topics on this. I myself, yes, I am not structured, but I do approach my running in an organized manner. And in a way, my running is more organized than my work, but my work is very problem solving oriented and analytical. And I am very analytical with a legal background. So I do approach it with a training schedule, and I do approach it with setting up my races throughout the year. But when I'm in the race, I look at a lot of different things. So let's say it's 100 miles. And first of all, I set a run walk schedule on my watch. And if you ask 20 runners, we all have a different interval that just works for us. So if I'm in great shape and I'm like, I'm going to PR this 100, I'm probably doing a 4-minute run and a 1-minute walk from the very beginning. And then maybe when I start to feel bad, then I just tell myself, well, hey, why don't I just walk an extra few minutes? Why don't I walk this full 5 minutes? And then maybe I'll feel better. And then while I'm taking that extra walk break, then I'll run through my mental checklist of, well, what is it? So the first thing you think about is feet. So is it my feet? Do I feel a hot spot? Do I feel a blister? Are my shoes too tight? Is it time to switch shoes? Did I run through a puddle? Are my shoes wet? Do I need dry socks? So you think of feet. I kind of go from the feet and then I go up. And then I think of like my legs. Okay, am I chafing? Do I need to switch an article of clothing? Because you run for a time, it's going to rub on your skin. So do I maybe pull out a different shirt that's maybe going to hit me somewhere else? Or maybe it's a different fabric. Or like maybe I'm wearing a shirt that covers my stomach and I'm just tired of something on my stomach. So I like tuck my shirt into my bra and now there's nothing on my stomach. So I kind of work my way up and I try to think of is a lot of times for me, the weak link is my stomach. Um, you need 200 calories an hour to sustain activity. And it's very hard to take 200 calories an hour and deliver those molecules to you repeatedly over 20 hours, 30 hours. Eventually, you're going to get some kind of a log jam in there. So often it's stomach, and you have to think about, do I need to eat something different? Do I need to eat less? Do I need to eat more? Do I need to switch to something with bubbles, Coke? Sometimes you need to throw up. I know it sounds disgusting. I've made myself throw up before, and then you chew on ice cubes for a few miles and you're better. The thing you have to do is realize the way I feel right now, like I feel crappy right now. I'm not going to feel this way for the whole race. So, how can I get through feeling crappy and know that? So, you have to stay in your mind, okay, this is temporary. And just, I go through that checklist of feet, clothing, stomach. Um, what else? Like maybe I switch my interview. Maybe my mind is bored. So maybe I have to switch my intervals. Maybe I want to do a 1 and 1 now, or I want to do a 2 and 30, or maybe I switch to a fartlek and I say, okay, I'm gonna run. I'll run all the flats and I'll walk all the hills. Or you switch things in your mind because then you can keep your mind excited. Um, when I feel really, really, really bad, I break it down as small as counting. I'm going to run 20 steps and I'll just count up to 20. Like I can run 20 steps. I get to the end of the 20 steps. I think I can run another 20 steps. I will run another 20 steps. And then maybe, okay, now I'm going to walk 20 steps. So you just have to keep changing things and keep going through your checklist of what you need. You know, am I hot? Am I cold? Do I need water? Do I need food? Do I need electrolytes? That comes with experience.
Are you
I'm
talking
sorry, that
about
was kind of a
nutrition?
long, that
No,
was a long answer.
but I mean, it couldn't be a simple answer when you talk about running for that, that length of time and trying to self-diagnose as you're out there. And you may or may not have a pit crew if you're running a race that's a loop.
Yeah.
Um, and or you may be coming to an aid station along the way where they have some things for you, and you've got to
Yes.
figure out, is this what I need right now? So you mentioned the
Yes.
experience is obviously a huge part of it. What do you prefer from a nutrition standpoint when you're out there doing a 24-hour, 100-mile, or 100K, whatever it might be? Um, do you have a go-to, at least sort of a starting point in terms of on-course nutrition?
Oh, yes. I have a lot of things. So I feel so there's without I won't get too sciencey, but there's two different types of sugars that give your muscles energy, and or there's several different kinds. There's only two molecules that can deliver those to the muscles. So the sports drink I either use Tailwinds or Sword. And I mean, they're all really pretty much expensive sugar. I know really sciencey people that like make their own, but Tailwinds is easy on the stomach. I like the way it tastes. If I didn't get bored, sorry, dogs. I could drink Tailwinds. Hey, stop. I could drink Tailwinds all day, but you get bored and you get tired of tasting one thing. The goal is to, for me, stay liquid as long as I can. Because when you're running, the blood's going to the muscles. And I'm not a scientist. I know enough of this to be dangerous. So the blood is not in your stomach helping you digest your food. So, you know, you eat a big meal and you want to sit down and digest it. Well, you're not doing that when you're running. So you can never eat a big meal. Your 200 calories an hour is, and that's for me, a 120-pound female. If you weigh less, you might do less. If you weigh more, you might do more. But that 200 calories, that's what keeps you occupied. Is I'm looking at my watch, and every 10 minutes, I'm taking a bite or a sip. So by the end of that hour, so Tailwinds as long as I can go. 5 or 6 hours, I'm kind of sick of it. So then I start thinking, okay, gel or gummy. So do I want to take like maybe a half of a gel? Um, Little things that you can grab little handfuls of them. Those are my go-to because you're not going to sit there and eat a sandwich. You might take a sandwich and cut it into little pieces, but my go-to is little Ziploc baggies. I know how many calories everything is. This is super nerdy, sciencey, crazy. But beforehand, I write down a plan. I tweak it, but gummy bears, awesome. You can count how many gummy bears make how many calories, and every 10 minutes, I can eat like 4 gummy bears. Little things, jelly beans, jelly bellies, things that are gummy or easy to chew. I go liquid gel as long as I can. Eventually, you get hungry, you get bored. Then I'm maybe going to like cookies or chips. You need a variety of textures, you need a variety of sweetness, salty, and you need a variety of nutrients. So you need your carbs, your protein, your fats. You need it all. So variety is the key. When I go to an ultra, I bring half my house. I set up a table, a canopy, chairs, um, foot care, first aid. My food is spread out on the table. Drink. I bring bubbly drinks. I bring ginger ale, ginger candy, Coke, uh, Red Bull for middle of the night, 5 hour energy. It You got to have it all. At
Got
some
the war
point,
chest then. You've got the war chest all planned out.
yes,
Yeah.
you're going to want salt at some point. I know that Pringles and pretzels work great for me. You can put a handful of Pringles into your pocket or a Ziploc bag. And as you go around, and I learned this from Bruce Choi and Brandy Landing, they are two very good local ultra people. I learned this when they crewed me. That's the beauty of it. You're an experiment of one. You can't go out and run 50 miles every weekend. you don't really have issues until you're beyond 30, 40, 50 miles. So I don't know. Now, 10 years later, I know that a handful of Pringles is great. I know a handful of pretzels is great. Later in the race, then you get bored of all the food you brought that you know works. And you also get really hungry and really tired. So then when you go through the race aid station, which let me tell you, ultra aid stations are a buffet. You may know this. You go through anything that looks appealing. I usually go through with a cup or a bag and I grab a handful of whatever looks good. I throw it in there and I keep moving. And they might have some flavor of drink that I don't have that sounds appealing. They may have pizza. They may have McDonald's hamburgers. At night, they will have chicken soup and noodles in the middle of the night. That soup goes down so good. So the key is just continually changing it up.
So this is where we get to the structure is the planning and the preparation that goes into this. I mentioned earlier that you have run a variety of races in different locations and different styles, as you mentioned. I want to just talk about a couple that are big ones. You ran the Spartathlon. You mentioned Bruce and also Mark Burgett ran that same year, right? You guys all ran the same year,
Yes.
Athens to Sparta, 150, what is it,
153
6 miles?
miles.
153. Tell me about that experience, what that was like.
So I've actually run it twice because the first time I didn't finish. So first of all, it's very hard to get into. Each country only gets a certain number of slots. And to make the US team, you have a very high, for a female, I had to run a 17-hour and 40-minute 100-miler. The first time I only had to run like a sub 22-hour. So it's hard to get into. You have to already demonstrate that you're fast to get in. But the thing is that you international travel, jet lag, I can't set up my table with my whole house, right? And Spartathlon, you have limited access to your crew. I do it with a crew. There are some crazy people who do it with a crew. And so you have to pack all these little bags with what you think you're going to need at that point. And you don't have access to a bag at every mile. So you get the map, you know when you're going to have bags, you know when you're going to have crew and bags, and you have to plan out what you think you're going to want at every stage of the race. So for 36 hours. So I'm sitting there labeling bags with my number, with my name, and you have to predict like, okay, it's going to get dark at this hour. I'm going to get to this mile at this hour. So I know it'll get colder. I put my arm sleeves in that bag. I put my headlamp in this bag. And sometimes bags get lost. Sometimes my crew got lost. So it was getting dark. I had packed a bag to be at a certain spot with like a flashlight, all my weather gear, extra food. My crew was also supposed to be somewhere around there. My crew was not there. So the key is in ultra, something is going to go not the way you planned it. You cannot freak out. You must, and that's why people DNF. They don't finish. People freak out. You have so much time, usually. I'll get to that in a minute on the Spartathlon. But you can't freak out. You have to just, okay, my crew is not here. My bag is here. I have a flashlight in the bag. I have what I need. My crew will be at the next place. It's all fine. You keep going. Maybe you go a little slower because maybe your crew had some special thing that was going to make you feel amazing. Maybe your crew, another thing that helps is sometimes you do have to sit down for 10 minutes and let someone like PT you. Use a roller on your legs, massage your legs, help you change shoes, socks, pants, whatever. But my crew was not there. So I kept going. Actually, both years, my crew missed the same checkpoint. Oh. I was like, really? But you can't get mad. First of all, you can't get mad at your crew. They're out there. It's harder crewing. You're basically sitting in a car following a runner at a snail's pace for over 24 hours. You're not sleeping. You're reading a map. You're driving in a foreign country. So Spartathlon has a rich history. You're following the route of Phidippides from Athens at the Acropolis to Sparta to kiss the statue of King Leonidas. Phidippides ran to Sparta to ask them to help Athens in the big war. Sparta was like, sorry, we're having a feast, but go ahead. Then Phidippides ran back, and I guess he died. So running a marathon does not make you die, but running the Spartathlon route twice does. So it's historical. The Greeks are so proud. You're running through Greek countryside. It's beautiful. You're running by like the beautiful blue waters. You run through ancient Corinth. You're running by monuments. You're running through little towns at all hours of the night. And the people are in the streets. There's massage tents, there's aid stations. The little kids in Greece, they really pull out all the stops. The little kids are carrying little autograph books and pencils, and you have to stop and give all the little kids your autographs. They have books, and you sign your name and your country and like the date, because they want to see how many different countries. There's probably over 50 countries that do it. So it's the other thing about Sprattathlon is it's mostly on the road. However, the cutoffs are aggressive. So, usually in an ultra, you'll either want to start slow and get faster, or you'll want to even pace it. Not in Spartathlon. The 50-mile cutoff is extremely aggressive. I think it's like 9 hours and 30 seconds. Usually I'm about 8. I think I was 7:45 to 8:15. You want to stay ahead of the cutoff a little, because you miss it, you get taken off the course. But it forces you to do the first 50 miles fast. And then the 100K, the cutoffs get really good if you can make it past 100K. Then you can slow down, but how much damage did you do?
Right.
The other thing that's really hard about Spartathlon is at mile 99, there is a mountain. And unless you're really fast, you hit the mountain in the dark. And you get there, and then they point you to this mountain, and they say, there you go, there it is. And you can see a trail of headlamps going up the mountain. And it's basically about a mile and a quarter up and a mile and a quarter down, like not a Colorado mountain, but at 99 in the dark, you're not really looking forward to a mountain. And this was what killed my race the first year. Many people know this or don't know this, but I have a visual impairment called esotropia. I don't see out of both eyes together, so I don't see in 3D. So I trip over curbs, I trip over roots, I trip over rocks. I was not prepared for this mountain. I had plain old eyeglasses on. I went up with one flashlight and like a blinker. It took me 3.5 hours to go 2.5 miles. I was practically crawling up that mountain. I was crying. I was wanting to give up so bad. I was so upset. I was completely demoralized. By the time I got to the other side of the mountain, I was still ahead of the cutoffs, but in my head, I was completely demoralized. And you don't get your crew right then. You have to go another like 4 miles before you see your crew. My crew, which is my wonderful boyfriend, and he was at that next town. He was asking everyone that came in. They were like, oh yeah, there was this woman on the mountain. She was crawling. She was crying. I hope she makes it. I got to that aid station. I lied down and cried. I was and I was cold. I had gone so slow that I was shivering. I'm quite thin. I was freezing. And he sent me out with, a jacket, whatever. He's like, all right, you're ahead of the cutoffs. Keep going. I could never recover from that. In my head, I was beaten. I maybe went another 5 or 6 miles. At mile about 111, I sat down at the aid station. I called it. And it was really hard to call it. I mean, I'm almost get tears thinking about it. However, do you want to know chapter 2 when I finished? Chapter 2 is really good. So I was demoralized. I went on vacation in Greece. Bill and I went to that mountain a few days later in the daylight. I wanted to, because when I memorize courses, then my eyes can get a good muscle memory. Because for me, I don't know how high to pick up my foot. I don't know how high the barriers are. And we went to that mountain in the daytime. We parked our car at the foot. We took video. We took Garmin measurements. I measured. I learned the terrain. We went up the mountain. We went over the other side. We had lunch in the little town and we went back over. We did the mountain twice with video and measurements in the daytime. I got back in. I had to qualify again. I got back in. I went back. I was in great shape. When I got to that mountain, so first of all, I was way ahead of schedule. By the time I got to the foot of the mountain, it was all socked in. It was foggy. It was rainy. It was, and I sat down and I cried and I go, I'm going to DNF again. No, and Bill was like, you are going to get your ass over this mountain now. Your crew sometimes, and Bruce Choi was there with his crew. We were both whining and our crews were like, you are going to get your ass over that mountain. And Bill put my trail shoes on me that I had practiced with. And he gave me a waist light, a headlight, a chest light, and a knuckle light. You could have seen me from the moon, I think. I went up that mountain. I got to that next town. It had taken me almost 4 hours. It took me an hour and a half. When I got to that next town, I was prepared. I knew the mountain. I knew I could do it. When I got to that next town, I sat down and cried tears of joy. And it wasn't easy. I finished the race in like 34 hours. You have 36 hours. And when I ran in, I had Bill and Liz, his daughter, they were running in with me. And we ran in. I kissed the statue and I cried. And Mark Burgett was there and Bruce Choi was there and a couple Jacksonville people. And they took me over where the volunteers, they started just crying and they're washing my feet. And one of the best experiences of my life. Sorry it's so long, but it's
a great story. No, it's
you
remarkable.
You can overcome anything.
Yeah, that's great. I do, in the last couple of minutes we have remaining, I do want to talk about, you mentioned philanthropy, and you just recently were involved in a race that certainly fits that bill. Tell us a little bit about your recent run around the courthouse.
I'm passionate about doing running to help others. It opens so many doors. So Free to Run is Jack's Legal Aid's endowment to raise money for shelter for elders and through Jack's Legal Aid. And he's been doing this for years. I met him at Hinson Lake and I'm like, how is there an ultra runner in Jacksonville? I don't know. I was passionate about the cause. I'm a bridge player. I love old people. I actually am getting certified to be a senior specialist in my real estate practice. Because let's face it, Cole, at the age we're at, all of our parents and our friends' parents are all getting old. So I was passionate about it, 24-hour run around the courthouse. So I'm not in shape for it. I raised money. I got a team together. I was like, this is right up my alley. Let's do this. I ran 90 miles around the courthouse in 24 hours. Not a PR, not my best, not my worst, but everyone came together. There was law firms had teams, a lot of people had teams. As a group, we have raised over 150,000 with a goal to raise about 180, I think is this year's goal. My team, which I was a little late, I only raised money for about 2 weeks. I've raised over 3,000. I'm going to still raise more. My friends came out, they brought food, they brought everything. And Bill, my usual crewmate, was not here. I had to set it up. Mike Martinez came, brought his canopies. I had people come in the middle of the night and walk with me all night and like share jokes. My friend who's a massage therapist, Tony Hannikin, he came 4 times and gave me PT and massage, keep me going. So many of my best running partners came over. Debbie brought my dog. I did a few laps with my dog. And that's what I live for. I like, if we can get beyond ourselves and we can all work together, we can do anything. And I'm very involved in a lot of running philanthropies. Marathon High is not an ultra. We train teenagers. in high school to run a half using Galloway. I ran across Tennessee for Marathon High. I raised $5,000. Ultra runners are the most philanthropic people I've ever met. We're always giving back.
Yeah, and you keep doing it, and it always remarkable when I see one of these big ultras. I'm always impressed with your ability to just keep going. It's just remarkable to me, and your passion for running comes through every time we talk. So, thank you so much for joining us today on Running for Coverage, and keep doing what you do.
Thank you so much for having me, and awesome.
Next week, we're going to have a kind of a turn the tables. I'm still sort of basking in the glow of running my first half marathon. It was the Thanksgiving Distance Classic. And we've had Kelsey Pontius on a number of times, both as a guest and also giving us some nutrition tips. She is a certified sports dietitian and also a runner who has qualified for the second time for the Olympic marathon trials. So she really knows her stuff and a great resource for runners. After I ran the Thanksgiving Day half marathon, she said, "Hey, I want to do something creative. I want to turn the tables and interview you." So we'll do that next week on the next installment of Running for Coverage. Until then, thanks so much. Get out there, have a great time on the roads. Be safe. I'll talk to you next time.